Welcome back to Winners and Losers, the show that looks at the highs and the lows around world football this weekend. We have to start with a talking point, which is, of course, the run-in, Hamill.
It is. We're going to get to Liverpool a little bit later. They're our first winners, spoiler alert. But like you said, well worth recapping the run-in that Manchester City and Liverpool now face from now until the end of the season. So, the Reds, 2 points ahead of Manchester City at the moment, although Pep's men have a game in hand. Pep's men also have a superior goal difference of plus 60 to Liverpool's plus 53. Both sides averaging 2.6 and 2.3 goals respectively. So there will be drama, we can guarantee that from here on in. So before we delve into the rest of the weekend's biggest games, a quick reminder of the fixtures that each side are facing. So more specifically, Liverpool, you're going to do Manchester City, are facing Southampton next, who are in the ascendancy at current, aren't they? Hasenhüttl has got them playing. Still 16th though, and fighting for their life. 5 points against 5 points above relegation. So that is going to be a tough game. And like you said in weeks gone by, played well against Manchester United, and the way they set up, not necessarily a foregone conclusion against the top boys, because they let them have it, don't they? And then they've got Porto in the Champions League. They've got Chelsea at home. And if you're going to have a team from the top six in your running, it might as well be a Chelsea in free fall at the moment, despite, you know, beating Cardiff. Resoundingly negative press coming off the back of that game. They've got them at Anfield as well. And Anfield, as we're going to discuss later, has been an absolute fortress under Jurgen Klopp during the last 2 years. Then they've got the likes of Cardiff City, who are 5 points off Burnley in 17th, I believe, or 18th, sorry. Then Huddersfield, who have already been relegated. Newcastle, who are 7 points above relegation. So again, a tough, you know, combative team who are going to make them work hard for that result. And then Wolves on the last day of the season. Arguably the trickiest tie of them all, maybe more so than Chelsea, but Wolves might be in the FA Cup final, so we'll have I'm guessing if they do, we'll have an element of rotation, resting key personnel. So, don't know what you think of that, but perhaps one of the easier run-ins of the top four.
Yeah, I mean, I think Arsenal have the easiest run-in of any of the top six, but beyond that, I think Liverpool definitely stroke of fortune. I think Southampton away is a tough game though. Like you already intimated, Hasenhüttl has got them playing really well at the moment. A good result against Brighton. They are flying. So that won't be an easy game going down there. I think it's on a Friday as well, which is a bit of an odd one. But Manchester City, I actually don't think their run-in is too bad either. You look at that Cardiff at home, I think that's probably going to be a mauling, to be totally honest. Brighton in the FA Cup semi. The one thing that City do have is the competition on more fronts than Liverpool, which might come back to hurt them because they're playing more fixtures. So they got Brighton in the semi of the Cup, Tottenham in the Champions League. Then they've got Palace away, who have won 3 of their last 5. So not on bad form themselves, but I still fancy City to blow that sort of team away.
Have fared better against the top 6 sides, haven't they? The middling clubs, but
they have actually, and they got a great result at the Etihad earlier in the season as well. So City will be looking for a bit of vengeance then. Then one of the tougher games, Tottenham at home. Still though, Tottenham struggling somewhat at the moment. Not got a particularly good away record under Mauricio Pochettino against top 6 sides, so I'd expect City to come out victorious there. Then probably the biggest fixture of all of these, I think, Manchester United at Old Trafford.
Season defining that could be.
Absolute season defining. Manchester derby, you know, under a resurgent United under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer before. Burnley away, who always struggle against the top 6. Leicester at home, fortunately, because Leicester away would have been a really tough one. And then Brighton away. I think this just could be another Aguero season. Another, you know, where it comes down to a 93rd minute winner or goal difference.
There's a couple of nice narratives in there. You know, if you're Pep Guardiola, you're going to want to exact revenge on United away because, of course, they could have won the title there last season. I mean, Leicester, statistically the 5th best defence. They've won 3 on the bounce now under Brendan Rodgers. Anyway, so yeah, there's a couple of hard games in there. I do think Manchester City's is not significantly harder, but trickier than Liverpool's to navigate. Given, you know, the sheer amount of competitions they're in, we might just see a little bit of wear and tear. And if you lose key personnel like Fernandinho, we discussed this before, and you know, David Silva, Bernardo Silva, then it becomes even trickier.
Yes, but I think Fernandinho's just coming back to fitness. It feels like they're just finding form at the right time at the moment, Manchester City. And 7 goals better in goal difference is a big number. And I can imagine that going to 12 very comfortably against Cardiff at home. Like, would it shock anyone if they went and smacked 6 past Cardiff? I don't think it would.
I mean, we're going to get onto Cardiff later. Chelsea carved out 21 opportunities against Cardiff, and this, it's not a prolific Chelsea side, is it? So you imagine City, are going to win pretty comfortably.
Yeah, how are we wrapping this up?
Well, let's do it like this. Who do you think is going to win the league title? Vote in the poll above, Liverpool or Manchester City. Emphatic. First winners then, like we said, it's the Red Men, and this comes from Liuan of Suburbia, Liverpool.
Yes, just continuously lucking their way to 90th minute goals, aren't they?
Rub of the green.
There's just something about this season that's really working for them. Obviously, Pickford's T-Rex arms helping them against Everton, Mahrez missing a penalty earlier in the season, and then Hugo Lloris, you're going to talk about, another rare mistake from him. But yeah, their phenomenal form at Anfield that you intimated at earlier continues, doesn't it? 37 games unbeaten. That is stinking, isn't it?
Good.
I mean, only one team has bettered this record, Chelsea, between 04 and 08, who, by the way, went 89 games unbeaten. 89 games. Just the 49 to go then for Jurgen Klopp's men. Liverpool are only the 3rd team to do the double over Tottenham Hotspur in the last 4 seasons. Mauricio Pochettino does not have a good record against Jurgen Klopp. No. In fact, he has a violently awful record away from home against the top 6.
But a decent record at home, I believe, against Liverpool. So for them to do the double this season will leave a sour taste in the mouth.
Yeah, I don't want to say he got it totally wrong, but I definitely think setting up with a back 3 was a mistake in the first half. He obviously corrected it second half, and Tottenham were the far better team. But Andy Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold had way too much room in the first half.
The most telling contributions came from those players, didn't they? It's not like Liverpool's midfield put in any noteworthy performances. Industrious, but not noteworthy.
Yeah, in fact, in the first 10 minutes, Liverpool's midfield were getting just breezed through. So the fullbacks became real outlets for Liverpool. I think Andy Robertson got his 9th assist of the season. He's having a phenomenal campaign. Arguably the best left-back in the world right now. Can't think of many players that rival him other than potentially David Alaba. Could you still say Sandro? I don't know, maybe Alexandro, but I feel like he's definitely is a competition for the best left back in the world. And then Trent Alexander-Arnold out on the right hand side, who both delivers incredible crosses and also incredible dead balls. His dead ball delivery was so good. They put like 4 players on Hugo Lloris and just lumped it in there early doors, and it was so effective.
It took 9 corners this game.
Yeah, and Tottenham really struggled to deal with it. And I don't know whether that's because Hugo Lloris isn't confident at coming out and catching the ball, which he doesn't seem to do enough, or whether it's something that Liverpool had noticed in the build-up. But that was obviously a tactic, because Trent Alexander-Arnold on the day, 2 shots, 2 key passes, 5 tackles, 5 clearances. Obviously, his cross as well, ending up in the winning goal with Mo Salah heading it back across. But for me, there, Hugo Lloris got to come and claim the bloody ball. It's about 400 yards in the air. It's an absolute loop fest. It's a moon ball. So it looks like he's here to float her in.
A loop fest?
You know those old floating balls you used to hit? They used to do like basically balloons.
Oh, the size 4s, the little pingers.
That's what he's
I had
hitting.
a Power Rangers one, and when you hit it, it was like, ping.
Yeah, and if you can't come and claim that as a Premier League goalkeeper in the top 6, then you're really not doing your job.
No, and talking of, doing the job, it was a bit of a foregone conclusion that Spurs would lose here. According to the history books, at the very least, they do not have a good record at Anfield, winning only 1 of their last 24 league visits, losing 15 and drawing 8, which makes the second half performance, all the more impressive. I mean, he started, like you said, with the 3 at the back, but he changed it to a 4-4-2 at half-time, with Danny Rose thriving as a purely attacking entity on that left-hand side. And in fact, he brought Ben Davies on later in the game when Danny Rose came back to left-back, so Danny Rose could go back to left wing, because Trent Alexander-Arnold, he only just made this game by the skin of his teeth, fitness-wise. And as the game went on, I think that was starting to tell, and they were punishing him down that left flank. And Christian Eriksen came alive in the second half, pretty much non-existent in the first 45.
God, yeah.
Set up Lucas Moura for his 10th assist of the season. Props to Harry Kane for that pass in the build-up as well. Raking cross-field ball. And I said on the Football Social that he's probably the best passing number 9 in world football right now. There was an element of disagreement. I think Van Straten said that Lever was better, that he probably backed Lacazette above him. But his passing this season, his link-up play, he's just becoming an extremely well-rounded player.
Definitely. Although I have to say,
so well-rounded.
Just on your point there, Christian Eriksen, he wasn't just poor, he was awful first half. Awful.
Yeah, I mean, and we're not used to seeing that from Christian Eriksen. And we had a little bit of a debate beforehand whether you take £130 million for him. Dele Alli can probably fill that creative void that he would leave. And then you go and get, you know, a deep line playmaker, which they're so, you know, pressingly in need of, aren't they, right now? Imagine starting at the base of midfield when you're competing for Champions League football with the likes of Sissoko, Harry Winks, Eric Dyer. I think it just highlights the fact that Pochettino has performed miracles with this squad this season. And if anything, it's enhanced his reputation as a manager, despite the fact that they've, lost 4 out of their last 5.
Well, they are on a crippling decline at the moment, though.
They are, but I don't think anyone could hold him accountable given the tools he's got at his disposal.
And the £0 spent in the summer and in the winter.
I mean, Christian Eriksen, as a result, he now has plus 10 assists for the last 4 campaigns. So an elite creator, don't get me wrong. And Spurs' ascendancy pretty evident in the second half in the XG numbers as well, edging out Liverpool at 1.4 to 1.2 with the quality of chances they created. But of course, Liverpool have the +1 OG in their favour as well. Hugo Lloris undoing his teammates' good work, letting Mo Salah's, you know, just a little taparoo with his forehead, just a little slap off the old bonce, and he's palmed it into Toby Alderweireld, who could do absolutely nothing but helplessly watch the ball trickle across his own goal line. And Liverpool, like you said, yet again win a game by truly house means.
But it's just, I don't understand the Hugo Lloris mistake. He's not even palming it. He's trying to catch it, and it slipped out of his top 3 fingers. It's just awful.
Just fingertips.
How many times has he made a mistake in a big game?
Well, let me tell you, Joe, 8. 8 this season.
Embarrassing.
Only Jordan Pickford has made more that have led to goals this season. So, last 5 games, like I said, have drawn 1, lost 4. Southampton in 16th, I dug this one out, have only lost 4 games more.
It's crazy.
That is mental. The fine margins in the Premier League highlighted there. They stay third on 61 points, level with United, but Arsenal have a game in hand. And for Arsenal to even be in touching distance,
Arsenal go 2 points clear of them tonight. But
yeah, it says a lot about their decline. But
I think when Solskjaer took over, we were 15 points off of Poch. And now we're level.
I mean, Poch, positive after the game, insists that his players are still heroes. So before we move on to our next section, let's hear from the big Argentinian.
I think I am happy because the emotion and the feeling that we got today, I think is going to help us. I think we were talking on the changing room now a little bit with the player. Now we start a mini league, 7 games ahead. We are in the top 4. We need to keep our position. It's in our hands.
Moving on to our first losers. Slightly unlucky to be in here. This was suggested by Captain Gooner. It's Cardiff.
Yeah, this was one of those rare occasions where we had Chelsea fans saying, put Chelsea in the losers despite winning.
Yeah.
And we had our fair share of suggestions for Cardiff. So, a bit of an easy one to open with. And this game producing at the final whistle a truly iconic Premier League scene. In fact, I'm thinking about getting that plastered to one wall of the office. Absolutely unreal, pistols at dawn sort of stuff. Neil Warnock silently seething in the centre circle, not even saying anything to the referees, just giving them the daggers, the snake eyes. I don't think I'm doing it justice. Let's cut to a VT. I mean, what do you say to that?
Mate, do you know what the best thing is? He's like applauding the crowd, and then they walk past him, and as they walk past, he just continues to stare at them from behind like a disapproving parent.
He stops for a second as well to shake Hazard's hand, shakes Giroud's hand, then straight back on the venomous stare. I
So
love
good.
it. It is peak Warnock, trousers up to his ears, just absolutely in full-fledged fury. Cardiff, I mean, he was delighted 60 minutes before this because they'd taken the lead through 24-year-old Real Betis loanee Victor Camarasa, the attacking midfielder's 5th goal of the season, an 8th goal contribution in total, which means he's been involved in 28% of Cardiff's overall goals. And his opener was an absolute peach. It's a mishit cross from Harry Arter, and he's turned it into a sumptuous volley. And despite surrendering 71% possession in this game, Cardiff, good value for their lead. What you'd expect from a Cardiff side. They've been solid in terms of the chances or the amount of chances they've conceded, or good chances, let's say, because Chelsea did have a plethora of shots in this game. And they worked on the counter, didn't they? And I think that without Patterson, their normal battering ram up front, so had to make some, changes here. And they did okay. I mean, these personnel in particular, rebuffing Chelsea's attack. So Sean Morrison and Ryan Bennett completed 11 aerial duels between them, 6 interceptions, 10 clearances and 4 blocks. And Harry Arter put in 9 tackles alone. So a monumental physical effort, but it just wasn't enough, was it?
I mean, it should have been. They were robbed by the referees, weren't they? He was 3 yards offside as per Quetta. One of the worst bit of linesman work I've seen all season.
Yeah,
they should have had at least 2 penalties on Sean Morrison. Terrible refereeing yet again. And arguably, Chelsea should have had Rudiger sent off. I think Zohore, I don't know whether Zohore's getting to the ball first, but if he gives the foul in that position, I think he's got a red card in, because Rudiger is getting nowhere near the ball. Either way.
Yeah, it's not the biggest physical contact, but it's definitely, it's enough. It's enough to stop him going through on goal.
And you'd imagine
last man. Kepa might be getting there, but he's still last man.
Arguably a red card, so you can see why Warnock was so spitting. But let's just go to Chelsea, because obviously the fans booing Maurizio Sarri for 80 minutes, chanting Sarri ball, and what other ones? Classics were there. We want you to leave. Sarri out.
Pretty creative for their normal standards. Just bang on about celery normally, don't they?
I know, but you can see why. They were rubbish. They were absolute rubbish. They completely dominated the ball and did nothing with it. The 21 shots, I don't know where they came from. I watched the game, it didn't feel like they had 21 shots. They must have been absolute pot shots.
I think just predominantly Willian. I think he had 5, mainly from outside the box, and Higuain, only carved out 3.
Mate, Gonzalo Higuain, what on earth
3
is
goals,
he doing?
2 against Huddersfield.
And the other was against the relegation candidate as well, I believe. He has been terrible. Honestly, there were times yesterday when he was sprinting full pace. Sean Morrison was walking alongside him and going quicker. He might be the slowest player I've ever seen in the Premier League. His link-up play is abysmal. I don't know what he's thinking, playing him as an out-and-out 9 at the moment, because he can't pass, he can't shoot, and he doesn't win any aerial duels. Honestly, him, Pedro and Willian as a front 3 might be one of the worst I've ever seen at Chelsea.
Wow. I mean,
I'm not joking.
At Chelsea, okay.
At Chelsea.
In the Premier League
Especially when you've got Hudson-Odoi on the bench and your manager is coming out pre-game and saying, yeah, well, I watched 20 minutes of the England game and I thought Hudson-Odoi was quite poor.
Yeah, I know you were particularly incensed by those comments this morning, as was Jamie Carragher. But I mean, 2/3 of that have won a Premier League, but you're right. I mean, there's a front line that are all post-30, and Hudson-Odoi, every time he gets on the ball at the moment, is looking like an absolute stone-cold killer.
I know. And then the midfield 3, less said about that the better. Jorginho, Barkley and Kovacic.
I saw Barkley miss an absolute sitter.
Oh, my Lord. Like, Kovacic. We banged on about him for about 2 years. What a mistake. Honestly, he was terrible yesterday. And
I mean, he's a good player. No one's faring well in this Chelsea side at the moment, are they?
They're not. And I understand,
Let's
like,
not go
Jorginho
OTT.
has to play every game because it's Sarri. But when you take Jorginho off and then you bring on Loftus-Cheek, like, that is the admittance of it's not working, this current system, and Jorginho isn't working as my DM right now. But still, Kante won't start as a DM in a Sarri system because, not good enough on the ball, according to Maurizio Sarri, which is nothing short of rude, quite frankly, because he absolutely is. Loftus-Cheek coming on and rescuing him.
Douche, header.
Yeah, and
scored a few goals this season, hasn't he?
I'm not sure how many goals he scored.
I think he's got 4.
But it was a nice blind header because he closed his eyes at the back stick when he nodded it in as well, didn't he? It was admittedly a pretty good header. It physically just moved, I can't remember the right back's name, out of the way for Cardiff, but equally saving Maurizio Sarri to some extent.
I mean, 4 goals is a very healthy contribution given how many starts he's actually been gifted in the Premier League.
Yeah, and I see
gifted's the wrong word, he's earned them. But.
I mean, I see a lot of fans on Twitter, Chelsea fans, moaning, and rightly so, you know, because the football is appalling. There's no change in the managerial style or philosophy whatsoever, completely rigidly stuck to a 4-3-3 that everybody in the world know how you're going to play.
But do you think people and the press are enjoying his failings a little bit too much, in the same sense that, you know, headlines were running with Fraudiola not last campaign, in Pep's first campaign?
No. I mean, at least Pep was slightly adaptable. There's no adaptation going on here. I don't understand the insistence of playing Ross Barkley at the moment when I believe personally Ruben Loftus-Cheek is playing really well, can't buy a start. I don't understand the insistence of saying Hudson-Odoi can't get a minute. If he cannot get a minute against Cardiff, not even 10 seconds of football on the pitch over bloody Willian and Pedro, there's something seriously wrong. There is something seriously wrong when all your philosophy relies on is going, oh, get Eden on, get Hazard on, please win me the game, Eden. Because that's what's happening. Nearly 80% of the games this season I've seen Hazard do a madness, whether it in the build-up, scoring or assisting, to win or get Chelsea points.
Yeah, and if you're Eden Hazard, you don't sign a new contract given the state of the squad.
Well, Hudson-Odoi's off in the summer, unless they are. I don't know how they keep him. He's going to be demanding a transfer.
He'll have a year left in the summer, won't they?
Yeah, Hudson-Odoi will be pressing for a move. Hazard's going to be pressing for a move. If you're N'Golo Kante, why do you want to stay?
Because you're on 300 grand a week.
You get 300. he could walk in and get 300 grand a week at another club.
Maybe. I think. I mean, Zinedine Zidane will still want Eden Hazard, despite him being 28 and probably having to part ways with 150 mil. They've got, I mean, they're only saving graces. They've got a lot of talented youngsters to return who could fill some holes. You know, Reece James at right back. They've got, you know, Tammy Abraham who can come in anywhere, you know, along the front three. But
have you ever seen Sarri implement a youngster well into a team?
He's the sort of manager that will run with, you know, Pedro and Willian for another year, as opposed to using this scenario to develop the youth, in my opinion.
And do you know what was most worrying was after the game, obviously he's been booed for 80 minutes by his own fans in the stadium, and his reaction to it was, I'm used to it, manner.
Yeah, it's pretty endemic, isn't it? I still think the sensible thing to do would be to see it out until the end of the season.
Yeah, you've got to give him the next 6 games to see if he can get you top 4.
It can't be ignored that he is getting a fundamental lack of support from the board, and there's just people in key positions at Chelsea who are disinterested in the club, it would seem at this point.
There's an endemic problem there, isn't there?
Don't want to put it all on Sarri, but Chelsea, just as a club, are fast entering that Arsenal sphere, aren't they? Wherein they're going to free fall to the point where they're 2 or 3 years away from rebuilding to get into the top 4 again.
Yeah, it's so hard because, like you said already, there's obviously a problem deeper than Sarri. Nearly every manager has had this issue. The trouble is that most of the other managers have first season or second season won a trophy, whereas Sarri, it doesn't look like he's going to win a trophy, unless, of course, he does a miracle and wins the Europa League, which is still possible, especially if he plays Hudson-Odoi in there. Either way, they are struggling big time. The refs were a disgrace in this one, and Cardiff, very, very unfortunate not to get a result.
Our final winners then, and this feels somewhat generous. They've snuck in. It's Manchester United. Joe had no part in this. In fact, it was Captain Guna who suggested them, but lack of big ties in the Premier League.
Yeah, lack of big ties. I don't know how we're in there. Absolutely useless on the weekend, Manchester United, but James has put us in. He wrote this section. Fortunate, very fortunate to beat Watford, a really good Watford side as well, under Gracia this season, 2-1 at Old Trafford. United's record against Watford is very good. They've beaten them on 11 of their 12 Premier League meetings, but on the day, were outplayed for about 90% of the game by Watford, who had 20 shots with 8 on target. That is how poor we were defensively. There was a void the size of California in our midfield.
California, got California, East Coast on the brain, have we?
I don't know why, but it was huge.
West Coast.
Absolutely huge. Mata, Matic, Herrera. Wow. The speed, the ability between those three. Not great. Equally, we were clinical on the day thanks to our energetic, I think it's fair to say, front line of Martial and Rashford. 2.98 expected goals to 1.35. Rashford and Martial obviously both getting on the score sheet. It's the first time since 95-96 United have had 4 different players score 10+ goals in the league. Obviously Pogba, Martial, Rashford and Romelu Lukaku. Rashford now has 45 goals in all competitions since his debut in 2016. That's the most of any Manchester United player in that time. But it's at the other end, there are problems. United's defence were probably man of the match in this game. In terms of, like, Luke Shaw played really well. I thought Jones and Smalling put in good performances. Ashley Young was useless.
I saw you, by the way, liking a series of out-of-context Manchester United gifs over the weekend, which was just Chris Smalling embarrassing himself.
Yeah, and obviously David De Gea, 7 saves on the day. Pretty impressive. But United overall did not deserve to win this game. We were not good, and there are massive improvements that need to be made to our midfield and defensive structure come the summer.
But we've spoke about United at depth on various podcasts. If you haven't listened to Sunday Vibes Extra Time, please go and do so now. There'll be a link in the description below. So let's just move on to Watford, who have been on an unfortunate run of late. 3 of their last 4 Premier League games have come against United, City and Liverpool with a combined score of 10-2 in the other side's favour. In fact, they've lost each of their last 14 Premier League away games against the top 6 since beating Arsenal 2-1 in 2017. And I believe that was when Troy Deeney was openly mocking them about having a lack of backbone. But on the flip side, they haven't lost to a non-top 6 side. Apparently that is a definition now. Since a 2-0 defeat to Leicester back on the 1st of December.
Wow. And
they're safe in the league with 43 points. Gracia is a candidate for manager of the season. They've got an FA Cup semi-final tie set up against Wolves. And they're playing Fulham next Tuesday. So it's all looking up regardless of this result. And no doubt they will waylaced to a fairly useless Fulham side. And as a result, Manchester United sneak back into 4th place. Only 1 point separates 3rd and 6th at current. Arsenal, of course, playing Newcastle tonight, so they could claim 3rd place. We're going 2 points clear of Spurs in the process, like Joe said earlier. What a time to be alive. What a sequence of events that's led to the resurgence of Arsenal and their Champions League bid. Anyway, let's move on to our final losers and wrap this show up. Last but not least then, it's relegation fodder. Huddersfield, the Terriers are going down, in the words of Fallout Boy. This comes from Johan Ran, and we'll probably never talk about Huddersfield again after this, slipping into mediocrity. What happened?
Well, they were officially confirmed as next year's championship team, weren't they, after a loss against Crystal Palace. Goals coming from Luka Milivojevic yet again, and Patrick Van Arnholt at Selhurst, not Celtic Park, although you are going to be talking about Celtic, aren't you, on ERU.
So go and check that out, because Morelos, Scott Brown, drama.
That was a fun game. They are equal now as the fastest relegated side, with Derby County, of course, 6 games left to play.
That's almost impressive they've managed to match the feats of that Derby side.
I know, Derby in 07-08. And also Ipswich in 94-95 did it with 6 games to play as well.
They've been useless this season, haven't they?
They have been absolutely embarrassing.
Which is a shame, because the fans are actually, they're top fans down the Kirklees, and they probably deserve better than what the 3 goals they've mustered.
Having said that, I wonder if they are happy just to have appeared in the Premier League.
There is that. They are punching above their weight.
Yeah. I mean, they have failed to score in 38 of their 70 Premier League games since they've been here. That's 54.3%. That's the highest percentage in the history of the competition. So that's worse than Derby County, although Derby have been in it for more seasons, so it's probably slightly skewed.
Lost for words. Lost for words.
Yeah, Jan Siewert becoming the first permanent Premier League manager to lose his first 5 away matches in the competition since Ollie's at the wheel. Since Ollie Gunnar Solskjaer at Cardiff, so you can imagine Jan Siewert taking over Man City in a few years' time and absolutely crushing it. No, but Siewert has fallen out with all of the big names at the club and does look like he's ready to shift them all out come next season.
Yeah, it would seem they're systematically getting rid of the high earners in preparation of going down to the Championship and maybe not being all too confident about coming up straight away, because I mean, there's big old holes in that squad, and I think there's Championship sides that would not fear facing them with their current personnel, their current setup, in David Wagner's absence. Just highlights what a good job he did in his sort of 2 or 3 years there. This game, maybe a little bit of a foregone conclusion. Roy Hodgson has won all 4 games against Huddersfield. His Crystal Palace side well equipped to deal with a pretty paltry outfit like this, and they should have scored an absolute hatful. I mean, what's his name? Wilfried Zaha missed 2 or 3 sitters. Batshuayi had one sort of half cleared off the line, I guess. He kind of rifled it into a defender. But it could have been a much healthier scoreline had the Eagles been bang at it. But Milivojevic, their reliable penalty taker, he now has 22 goals and is the 3rd highest goal scorer for Crystal Palace as a result in Premier League history, behind Wilfried Zaha and Chris Armstrong. Good old Chris Armstrong. Not sure who he is. But Milivojevic now has bagged 18 of his 20 Premier League penalties. Zaha has won more penalties than any other player in the Premier League this season. So those two linking up nicely. Palace have scored 9 penalties in the league this season, more than any other side. Next up for Palace is Tottenham at their brand new stadium, the saving grace of every Spurs fan this week. And, you know, over the last 2 years, and will probably be there, you know, a hindrance in the next 10 years. So, you know, let's hope they win the first game. Otherwise, Sonny Snelling may just do something nefarious, you know. So, check him out on Pro Clubs, though. Funny guy.
So that's it for this episode of Winners and Losers. But over on ERU, you can see teams such as...
Ooh, Lazio, Inter, Dortmund, Bayern, Salzburg, and... we forgot to do the special mention for Pozuelo, who scored an absolute banger for Toronto. There must have been at least 10 people in the comments who wanted us to shout him out, including Gitano Gallo. So, sorry we forgot about that, but MLS, not necessarily at the forefront of our minds, but it was a bloody good goal. And yeah, watch ERU, because bloody good show.
Thanks very much for watching, guys. Goodbye.